We're so delighted to have in studio Justin Skeesuck and Patrick Gray, both stars of a new documentary, I'll Push You. Guys, welcome to the gathering.
Thank you.
Now, you're both finally, located in Eagle, Idaho.
Yeah.
Okay, both married, 3 kids apiece.
Yep.
But you've known each other for...
Our whole lives. 42 years.
I mean, like how far... I mean, when people say that, but I mean, how far do you actually go back?
Since birth.
Yeah.
We were born just over 36 hours apart. Same hospital, same small town. And there hasn't been a day where we haven't known each other.
And you even said, I think in the making of this film, that there were some people in your families that even go back farther than that.
Oh,
what
yeah.
was that?
That's our mothers have known each other since the 4th grade church camp. Our parents went to school together. They have known each other since college. Actually, Justin's dad and my dad played sports together in college in NC. And then when we were researching to write our book, we discovered that Justin's great uncle was the best man in my grandfather and grandmother's wedding.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird.
It's a little creepy.
And that's only as far back as you could go, right?
I think so.
This could actually roll.
I think that's as far back.
Probably stop.
Yeah,
If there's any
probably should
connections,
go.
any connections further back than
Immigrants
generations.
coming into the country and helping each other out.
yeah.
We don't know about that part. What did you, when you, as far back as you can remember, let me just start with you. What did you see in him?
Humor. We've always had humor and stupidity as the center of our friendship. And we do a lot of dumb stuff.
I wish I could argue that, but I can't.
You can't.
Nope.
We laugh a lot. We do.
Yeah.
And, life is too short to, I think, sometimes to be too serious all the time. Yeah. And I think we take it to the extreme sometimes. But we love to laugh. We love to joke around. And that's always been the center of who we are. And really, really dumb stuff. But
well,
that's
I'm going to flip the tables. What do you see?
Since the beginning, it has been humor. There's no question. That's been kind of a cornerstone for a lot of what has happened in our lives, especially some of the stories that we get to share. But over time, it's evolved where, now you got someone who's dealing with a really difficult life situation, and you have a humor that definitely makes some of those struggles easier to manage. Justin embraces them in just a unique way, but there's also a resiliency that just does not let life define how he's going to live. That's a pretty remarkable trait to have, to face uncertainty with just complete grace.
Now, you guys obviously born practically in the same bassinet, and then you grow up and do sports together. I saw some photographs yesterday. Graduate together, but then you move apart.
Right.
For how many years?
21 years, almost.
How did you maintain the relationship over that period of time?
It was intentional.
Yeah.
We just made a concerted effort, regardless of how far apart we were, to be on the phone talking about what's going on. It could be anything from girls to the progression of Justin's disease to new music in San Diego he's exposing me to, and just what's going on. And then I would hop on a plane and fly down to San Diego for my spring break. He would come up for his.
I come up. Yeah.
Yeah. It just
we've always just been intentional with one another. Mm-hmm. I can't reiterate that enough because every couple of weeks we just talk to each other on the phone, and then whenever we, I think our parents would get irritated with us because when I would come up and visit, I'd be spending more time with him than my mom and dad. Sorry, mom and dad, but we would just that's always been. Just how we continued that foundation that we build upon, and the connection and the intentionality. We just choose to live life's adventures with one another.
Yeah. Pursuit.
Yeah.
Pursue each other.
Now, at around 16 years of age, an accident happens. Can you describe that? What happened?
Yeah, so I was driving from our hometown to a nearby town to play in a basketball tournament, and a friend of mine was driving his truck, and I ended up rolling it on the freeway, going about 80 miles an hour, and that's I know people are probably thinking that's what put me in the chair, and it did in a roundabout way. It wasn't immediate. It was about 6 months later I started noticing weakness in my left foot, and it wasn't working, how it normally should work. And several years after seeing multiple doctors and neurologists and all crazy tests that I went through, I was finally diagnosed with a very rare progressive neuromuscular disease.
Did you have this disease?
Yeah,
prior
it was
to-
dormant. It was dormant in my body. I didn't know that you could have a dormant disease in your body and something traumatic can actually trigger it.
Which would be
And-
rolling a car at 80 miles an hour
Yeah,
would be.
yeah. So more than likely, the symptoms would have shown up later in life, probably in my 30s or now in my 40s. But it just started it early, and so it's very similar to ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. That's the disease that I don't have ALS, but it's called multifocal acquired motor axonopathy.
For people like us, that's
MAMA, MAMA.
Yeah,
Yeah, I call it
okay.
MAMA for short. And it works very similar to ALS, almost identical. I was originally diagnosed with ALS in my early 20s, but it is where basically my autoimmune system attacks my nervous system, and then my nervous system shuts down. So it stops triggering the muscles, all the motor nerves. So I can feel everything from head to toe. So if you kick me in the shin, I can feel it. But it's just the muscles stop working, and there's no cure for it. There's some treatments that help kind of curb it, but I've yet to respond to any and all known treatments.
How many people in the world suffer from this?
In the world, I don't know. In the United States, it's very small.
Very small.
I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but last I was told was maybe 5 to 10 people in the whole country
With full body.
with
right?
full body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a place possibly in the United States where they're really studying this carefully more than others, or
In some, I met the top doctor in San Francisco, University of San Francisco, and he's the guy that studies this disease, the disease I have, and he was actually stumped. He's like, "Yeah, I don't know what to do for you. Tried all the things that you could do, and
do they have a prognosis? I mean, as he sits with you and talks about the future, what do you hear?
I've heard the same thing from what he told me, and other neurologists that I've had have told me the same. The prognosis is at some point, more than likely, I would pass away from the disease. Complications from it. So you don't, like ALS, you don't die from ALS. You typically pass away due to complications from it. Okay. So in my case, it'd be very similar to like an ALS patient, where if my lungs or my breathing is affected, like the muscles, you can't breathe anymore. So you end up pneumonia,
Sure.
Those types of things. But my brain will be intact, all
And
full.
you'll feel.
I'll feel everything. Yeah. So it's not a good outlook, but it's definitely has shaped the way that I see life, and I don't want to ever wait to live. This is the life that we have. This is the life that God gave us. So live it.
Go for it.
Go for it. Do the things that you want to do. Do the things that if it goes against the norm, for me, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So,
Now, Patrick, you heard about what was going on. This would have been when the two of you were apart, I'm going to guess.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to you?
Well, initially when the symptoms, manifested that would have been our junior year.
Yeah.
And Justin started to have weakness in his foot. It was a question, but there was no long-term prognosis. It was like, okay, we're tying that back to maybe he struck his knee on a gear shift, or, there's a lot of questions, but okay, whatever. It's 1 foot. It's not a terribly big deal. He just handled it so well that it didn't really affect me at that point. And even when we work our way through our college years, and I'm up in Nampa, Idaho, he's down in San Diego, and it jumps to his right leg, it's his legs. It's the long-term vision is, what's going to happen hasn't been defined in any way, shape, or form yet. So it just didn't really affect me a whole lot because his attitude was so positive. But in 2010, when Justin lost his hands, that was an entirely different landscape.
And the reason why...
He's a graphic designer by trade. And so now his ability to provide for his family is taken away. But then the implications of how you engage with others he can't hold his wife's hand now. He can't hold his kids. He can't wrestle with his boys. And those changes, because I know how much he loved that, I was pretty angry. I was pretty angry at God for allowing this to happen. That's how I saw things. And it was pretty dark. It was pretty dark for several years.
But you say in overhearing a conversation that Justin was having with someone else, his answer actually kind of threw you for a loop.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. For those 2 years, I prayed for miracles. I prayed for God to intercede and to make Justin, in my mind, whole. And I was so angry and so bitter, and I just saw the situation as a God who had failed my friend, who had failed to answer prayer, who had failed to show up. But the conversation you're talking about was 2 years after the initial phone call where Justin told me he had lost the use of his hands. And yeah, we were in a church service, actually right after a church service. Justin and his wife and kids are up in Idaho visiting us, and we're hanging out for the week. And after church, a gentleman takes Justin aside and asks him the question, if you could have your hands and feet back, and you knew you could be made whole, if you will, would you choose it? And Justin said no. And so it was in that.
Why did you say that?
Because up until that point, and even to this day, it sounds totally counterintuitive, and it took me a while to get there as well. But it's the disease that I have has taken me on a course of my life where I don't think I would have the experiences I've had, or have seen the effects. At that moment, what I was referring to specifically is the effect of the disease that it's had on my children, because I'm a parent, and how compassionate they are to other people. They don't see. I mean, sometimes they're curiosity, but they're younger at those ages. But now, they don't see people in wheelchairs or people with disabilities as anything other than they're just people.
It's dad.
I'm dad to them.
It could be mom.
And other people too. I mean, I've seen my kids climb up on, I've met other people in chairs, and they just climb up on their laps and sit down with them and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And why would I trade that? I wouldn't trade that for anything. And to have the experiences that I've had, since that day at that church, I wouldn't be here talking with you today if I was able to just get up and go back to my quote-unquote normal life that I had. This whole journey never would have happened. Right. The experiences that we've had together never would have happened. The relationship that Patrick and I have as brothers in Christ wouldn't be at the level that it is as it is today, and that we're continually pushing forward in the future. Why would I trade that?
Yeah.
Sounds weird.
Now, did this pull you out of kind of that funk or depression that you were in, or
it was
did
a start.
It take? Okay, a start.
It was a start. Yeah, it was in that moment where I realized that I had been praying for a prayer for a miracle that he wasn't praying for. I was fighting a fight that he wasn't fighting, and over time I realized that so often that is what a lot of people do, is we want what we want as opposed to what people need. And Justin didn't want a miracle as I saw it. He just needed hands and feet. He had accepted this new life, and he embraced it with just a remarkable amount of grace, really. And that was something I missed out on. I missed the boat because I was so obsessed with what I perceived God should do, and he was doing something so much greater.
Completely different.
So much greater.
Now, you talk about the words you used, I think, in a conversation were complete blackness. You experienced a period of complete blackness. If you don't mind, talk about that. Help us understand what is that, and then maybe even how did you begin to find a way out of that?
Yeah, and when my hands and arms went, it happened very quickly. My waist and below just took years for it to. So I had time to adapt. I had time to keep relearning how to do certain things. Was it easy? No. I mean, at that point, it wasn't easy at all, but I had my upper body still. But when that was taken away, it happened within like 40 days or so. I mean, it happened very, very quickly. And I tell you what, man, when you can't walk anymore and you're in a wheelchair, I was in a wheelchair at that time, but then now I can't propel myself. I'm in a manual wheelchair, so I can't propel myself. I can't get my clothes on. I can't eat. I can't, I had really hard time in the bathroom. I had young children, having to help care for them.
And the damnable part is you can actually, so you're feeling still. So this
I can
is
feel
not,
it. It's just, this doesn't work. So it's
Yeah.
just like having a limp arm, limp arms, or, you just can't do anything. You feel completely helpless. And I went into a place where, which was new territory for me, for sure. And I was being tested, definitely. And I've been tested since, but it was a place that I don't wish upon anybody, because you really, really do have a hard time seeing your way out, because you're like, what is my purpose here? Why is this happening to me? At least this is what I was dealing with. And I felt like a burden upon my wife, because, I say it in our film that I feel like I'm basically becoming like a little kid again. Like I'm becoming like a baby. I have to be cared for, and bathed and fed and all the stuff that you do for a child. And here I am, a grown man, and I feel worthless. I feel I'm questioning my existence on this planet. Like, why am I here, and why is this happening to me? And would it be easier if I wasn't here for those around me, so they wouldn't have to take care of me? Because it's not just take care of me for like a week. It's day in, day out, 24/7 for the rest of my life. And to get out of that, I can the best way I can describe it, of how I worked through it, is I just focused on what I'm blessed with. I focused on what I'm grateful for in this life. Yes, I can't do the things that, you or Patrick can do anymore. But what I was very grateful for were my children, my amazing wife, who just said, okay, we're going to deal with this together. We're going to work through this. And she was dealing with her challenges too. I mean, we all went through it.
You married a nurse.
Yeah, she was a nurse. She worked at spinal cord. She was a spinal cord injury rehab nurse. So she was dealing with taking care of veterans that were in Afghanistan and Iraq, and working with them 12 hours a day, 12. She was working really hard, and then she'd have to come home and take care of me. So she was getting burnt out, and you can see the writing on the wall that you can't sustain that. But God gave me an angel. I wholeheartedly believe that she was put on this earth as an angel for me. And she just said, we're going to get through this together. We'll work through this. And I was just so grateful for her. Patrick stepped up to a new level of our friendship, because up until that point, I could go to the bathroom myself and do all that stuff. But when he started noticing, my wife getting burnt out, he would come down and take care of me for the weekend so that my wife could get a break. And I tell you what, it is very humbling to have your best friend wipe your backside, shower you, help you get your clothes on, do all that stuff. But I knew that he was happy to do it. I knew that my wife was happy to step in. I knew my kids were going to be exposed to something that was going to be a completely different way of living and viewing life. And slowly but surely, after just tons and tons of prayer, and I mean, it wasn't like an overnight thing. It took a while. Almost a year to kind of work through that. And, I just said, okay, you know what? I could go that easy road. I could make it, I guess, what I thought easier on somebody else. Easier by taking my own life and just getting it out of the way so they don't have to deal with me anymore. But then I realized, you know what? God's got something with this. I don't know what it is. And at that point, I had no idea what the Camino was or anything like that. So I was like, all right, you got it. You got it.
So you guys decided to go on a hike.
On a hike.
A little one.
A little tiny hike.
Pretty short.
A little 500 plus mile hike across the nation of Spain.
Yes.
I mean, like, I won't say crazy idea, but it's to anyone who hears it, it sounds like a ludicrous idea. Whose idea was this?
This guy's.
Yeah, sure. Why would I be surprised? Why would I be surprised?
idea.
He says choose life, and he defines it as a hike in Spain.
Yeah.
But a pretty arduous hike. If I saw the map right, you guys went to the Pyrenees?
Correct.
Went over the Pyrenees and 2 other mountain ranges. There's about 150 miles of it's called the Meseta, which is like a
plateau.
It's like a plateau, kind of a desert.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like
not,
Kansas.
not a true desert. Like
It's
sand.
wheat fields for as far as you can
Yeah.
see. For days on end.
Days
And
on end.
literally in the planning of this thing, no kind of, let's really, come on, sobriety here. This is not really a good idea. No checks?
We had a few moments before we went like, oh my Lord, what did we get ourselves into here? But
That was more on the documentary side.
But that was more on the documentary piece, not necessarily the journey itself. But it was, the idea came about when it was in the spring of 2012. I was watching Rick Steves on PBS. I just happened to be checking. I mean, maybe if it wasn't just happened, maybe it was completely ordained. But
Right. He's a Seattle boy, so that could be ordained.
yeah. But I just knew it was the episode on northern Spain, Pamplona. There's the running of the bulls and all that, and then this pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago. And I just knew. I don't know how to describe it other than it called me, and and I'm sitting in my living room by myself watching this thing unfold in front of me, going, "All right, okay." I think I need to do this.
But Kirsten is probably either watching this or in the kitchen or nearby someplace. She hears about this. What's her initial reaction?
She said, if you want to go do it, go do it.
Okay.
That's what she said. That was her first reaction.
This is a rock star wife.
Yeah. I always joke that maybe she was looking to kick me out of the house for a month, but to get a break. But probably a little bit of both. I mean, she was very, very supportive from the beginning. And then Patrick came down a couple weeks later from Idaho with his family to visit us, and we had been talking about doing a trip for quite a few years.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite work out because just life got in the way, or Patrick was in the process of adopting his Olivia, and that took a lot longer than he had expected, and so we didn't want to do something that would jeopardize the time where he needed to go do that, and so we had to wait for the kind of the dust to settle with that, and we hadn't really settled on something, and so I recorded this episode, and after I knew that I wanted to do it, and I just played for him, and he said, "I'll push you." That was his response after watching it.
Now, looking at the map, I mean, you look at the elevations. I've actually looked at this before meeting you. Have some friends who have said, "Why don't you come and join us?" I probably will at some point do this, but I had a good chance to look at some of the elevations. This is some extreme hiking. This wouldn't be climbing. You don't need ropes.
Yeah,
but this
not
would
that
be
level.
some real extreme climbing in terms of just the terrain and also just the elevation gain in a very short amount of time.
Right.
You so much didn't say we're not going to do this. We're going to do this, but you're taking on pulling, pushing. You're taking on getting pretty beat up. I'm going to guess being rocked pretty hard.
Yeah, we both were put through the
This
ringer.
is still just okay. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, we've kind of approached life, especially in our later years, from the standpoint of why do we want to do something? What's the reason behind it? And if the reason is something we believe in, if we are passionate about it, we'll figure out the how. But if you start looking at the devil's in the details, and you focus on all the details you got to do, you get overwhelmed, and then all of a sudden you just check out. It's too hard. It's too much. Can't do it. And that's really a limiting mindset to approach things that way. There has to be a passion behind it. There has to be a reason, and there has to be a motivation for anything we do. And it might not be pretty how it comes together, which it definitely wasn't pretty.
Yeah, it was very squiggly line.
Yeah, but you figure it out. You figure it out.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
And we were going to figure it out together.
Yeah.
But I get the sense you do that about most things in life.
Pretty
the
much.
two of you guys.
Figure it out.
Yeah, it makes life a lot more fun.
And the trike looked like a giant, hefty baby jogger. I mean, this thing looked like awesome.
The chair was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So to give people perspective, and to know it was made out of Canada. There's if you start Googling off-road wheelchairs, there's not a whole lot of options. So we found this one. It's made by Off-Road Chairs out of Vancouver, BC, and they're made to order and all that. But with the chair and me in it and our gear, it's about 250 pounds. So it's quite heavy to push, and it'll very slow moving uphill.
It'll pull you down.
Pull you straight down a hill.
Yeah.
And on the flats, it will kind of pull you down the road as well because it's just so much
Get your
weight.
momentum going. It just
So
takes you long.
it's we affectionately describe it as a 3-wheeled baby jogger on steroids. That's the best way to describe it.
It's what it looks like.
It was my chariot. Yeah, it was my chariot.
Big stroller.
Any moment within the hike in which you're basically saying, what have we done?
I wouldn't say as far as the overall journey itself. We never were like raising the white flag, let's give up by any means.
I don't get the sense that that's a part of either one of your backgrounds. Where does that come from?
I don't know. We both have just
Stubborn.
we're stubborn. We're remarkably stubborn. I'll give you that. Yeah, stubborn, strong-willed, pretty passionate. We're both pretty type A in certain areas. I would say I'm more type A than you are. It's a disease, and I always joke that I'm recovering from it. But it's just a mindset of we won't give up on anything we set out to do. Giving up is not part of the equation.
Now, you met some people along the trail, and again, your film does such a great job of highlighting, even in brief, some of the stories of some of those people, but some stories came really bubbled up for me. One was a farmer on top of the Pyrenees that said the impossible is possible. Now, this is early on in the
Day
whole
one,
venture.
right
day
out of the
one.
gate. Yeah.
What happened when he said that?
Oh gosh, I think that was a defining moment for all three of us. At this point, Ted Hardy, a friend of ours, is with us. He came over to help us get over the Pyrenees for the first few days. And we had been through, it's been an arduous climb. We're exhausted. I've never had my body hurt so much. And we're only, halfway through the day?
Yeah. It was a long day. 17 miles the first day.
Yeah. But to have a complete stranger witness what's happening as we're carrying Justin up this stretch of trail, because it's so steep we can't get the chair up with Justin in it. There's just no way. So we have to get Justin out of the chair, carry him in a sling, and it took us about probably an hour and a half to go about 100 yards. It's just, there's some sections of this that are 30% grades. There's just no way to get a chair up there. But this gentleman, he's up there. He's a sheep farmer or herder, and he's been living in the area for his whole life. He's seen countless pilgrims come over the Pyrenees, and he's taken upon himself to maintain a little hut that is a refuge for pilgrims in case they get caught in inclement weather. And he's been doing this for years. And he was up there repairing this hut, and he sees us coming over, and he just comes down, and it's a brief interchange, just the shortest moment of conversation. But after we meet him, and he actually slapped Justin in the face, which is pretty awesome, because he was so excited to see Justin.
He slapped me, yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Not violently.
Not violently. It's kind of like that Italian mother, But we had this conversation with this guy, and then he's off. And he takes back up the hill, but he stops halfway up and turns around and he shouts, "The impossible is possible," with both arms up in the air. He says it twice. The impossible
Sign of victory.
is possible. A sign of victory. Yeah, and it was just this.
We needed to hear that.
We needed to hear it.
We did.
It was a moment where, for me, I recognized how much power there is in our words. This complete stranger that we'll never see again chose to enter into a conversation with us for just a few minutes and then just speak truth, a truth that it's only impossible because you haven't done it yet. That's what I got out of that.
Wow.
And he was so right. And we reference back to that moment time and time again as we are just pushing through life together and the different challenges we face now with just whatever happens. Right. We go back to that moment in that Basque farmer saying the impossible is possible.
You had another woman that joined you by the name of Claudia that had a pretty amazing personal story before she ever joined you, and yet you had an impact on her as well. One of you want to share what happened?
Yeah, I could talk about that. So, well, she had a profound impact on us as well. Yeah. One of the rules that I had when somebody would, if we were to meet people along the pilgrimage, is if they wanted to help, number one rule is tell me a little bit about yourself. I didn't say specifically what. I just tell me something about yourself, and don't kill me. That's the other rule, which I think is a really good rule.
It's a reasonable request.
So she said, "All right." And when she was behind the helm, we'll call the helm is behind me. She was behind me pushing. She just started to tell me her incredible story. And in a nutshell, so we went on the pilgrimage in 2014. New Year's Eve 2013. She is from Johannesburg, South Africa. And she was celebrating New Year's Eve with her family. And she had that's kind of their family tradition. And they had a tradition of New Year's Eve where they would set up a camera and count down to, when the countdown hits, midnight, they set up a camera to capture the moment right when it happens. And that particular evening, that particular year, right as the shutter hit, the new year, took a photo. Masked gunman burst into her home, and a few moments later, her father was shot with a shotgun and died that evening. And just all happened. I mean, they went from complete joy to absolutely complete devastation in the matter of minutes, maybe hours, but very, very short period of time. And so she's on the Camino processing all of this. She had no intention of going on this pilgrimage. She just happened to go with her sister's best friend. Her name's Jess, and who we met as well. And she was just trying to deal with this, and so we ended up crossing paths with her. She helped us on and off for a while, but one day in particular we were climbing a hill, and it took us a while, and she was there. And at towards the top of the hill, after working our way up it for about an hour and a half or so, unbeknownst to me, I was just kind of working our way through this, and one of my roles is a kind of a cheerleader. I'd be like, I kind of cheer people on. Let's do this. We got it. And I did a countdown from 10. I didn't even realize I was even doing it. I was doing a countdown, 10, as we're getting towards the top, 10, 9, 8, and, we get towards the top and hit 1, and we're hugging each other, and, and all that, and then she just takes off, And so we don't see her until that evening, and, she's processing through some really crazy emotions that she's dealing with. She ends up sending us a journal entry of that day. And in a nutshell, she laid down her burden to help us get up to the top of that mountain. And when I was doing a countdown, yet again, I didn't know I was even, I just kind of was just doing it. I didn't know that I was even having some sort of impact on her. She was like, I don't want to hear a countdown again. She's reliving this moment of her father being murdered, and then she realized that after the fact that a countdown could be happy again, and that made a shift in her. I don't know to what degree to this day, but she shared that journal entry with us, and it is very, very powerful when you read it.
Yeah.
Because it leveled us. It absolutely leveled us when we were actually in tears when we read it, because
took us by surprise.
It took us by surprise. We had no idea it happened, and that's just one out of many stories. So
now 34 days.
35.
35
days,
that would be important to make sure that we have the right number of days. Notice you were very quick on that.
Yeah. Well. Sorry, I just... 35.
That's exactly why I would be in the same boat if I had done this. and met with a number of friends. Your family was there in the square
wives were with
as
us,
you
yeah.
came in. Obviously, I do endurance events, and they always say, you know, when you're 5 miles from the end, you're thinking, I'll never do this again. I mean, just get to the finish. But then you finish, and you're thinking, okay, possibilities opened up again.
I was saying
Not that moment. Not that
Okay,
moment,
good.
no.
This is
No.
good.
It was more like,
Yeah.
I think we were
made
limping.
it.
We limped
Tired.
into
Yeah.
Santiago, but we made it.
Yeah, that was more the actual moment when we made it to Santiago. There was just so much appreciation for humanity, just the good that exists in people. We met so many people from so many different countries who offered help. I mean, we asked one guy to help on the first day, and that's the only time we asked for help because it was
The only
always
time.
given.
Yeah.
Like Claudia, Claudia just stepped in. She wanted to help. She had friends that she was traveling with, strangers that she had met that crossed our paths, and time again, people stepped in to help, and it was just an appreciation for the love and the beauty that can exist in the relationships that we possess if we really invest in them. Claudia's story really kind of was a major shift for Justin and I. Man, we never know what other people are dealing with, and when someone is willing to lay down their burden, in her case, reliving that moment to pick up the burden of someone else, which she did for us,
Very significant.
that is what this life is meant to be about. That is what following Jesus is supposed to look like. And in that moment, she was Jesus to us. And we all have that opportunity every single day. We just don't always appreciate those opportunities when they're in front of us because we're not looking for them. But that was what I was feeling in the square is, man, I am so grateful for all these people who loved on us just because...
Because not only
We
were our
wanted to.
wives waiting for us, we had many of the pilgrims that had
Yeah.
helped us along
That
the way
actually
were waiting
stayed
for
back
us.
to make sure they
that
were
had
part of the
finished before us
celebration.
were waiting for us as well.
They finished the day or two before, and they were just waiting for us.
Now you finish this journey, and now some substantial changes, occupations,
Oh, yeah.
and dreams and visions for the future. I'd love you to talk about that. You've started another organization. Tell me about that.
Which one?
Pushing.
Push Inc. or Disabled Traveler? There's
Disabled
two.
Traveler is the
Okay.
one I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah, so the Disabled Traveler was something that I had started before Patrick and I even remotely went on this pilgrimage. And then we had worked on it together after we came back. Pat can talk about his shift in his career. But in a nutshell, it's something that we're somewhat working on. We've put it on pause for now. The main reason is just because we're so busy with the film and the book that came out. And
Which,
all
by
that.
the way, comes out on November
The
Second.
film,
second.
yeah.
So in a
November
theater
2nd.
near you, be looking for
Yeah.
I'll Push You, November 2nd. That's a shameless
One night
plug.
only. One night
One
only.
night only. If
Yeah.
you try and wait for November 3rd, you will
You'll miss
it.
out.
So grab your friends, family. Okay,
Yes.
end of commercial, but an important promotional word.
Yeah.
But the Disabled Traveler is also, and what does it do?
It was started, and it might shift as we kind of revisit it. We're talking about revisiting it, but it's geared for helping people with limited mobility learn how to travel. So not a travel agency. I don't say you need to go here, or I'll provide
Or
a
book
cruise
tickets,
for you
yeah.
or anything like that. It's more like, hey, if you're at home and you have you don't feel like you can if you have maybe if you're in a wheelchair or you can't walk as
Mobility
well.
issues of some
Mobility,
kind.
Yep.
because that's my expertise is mobility. I'm not hearing impaired. Well, at least my wife thinks I might be somewhat hearing impaired.
I think you are.
Patrick says yes.
But it's just about, hey, if you're at home and you want to go travel the world, you can do it, and here's how you do it.
Okay.
Logistically, tactical strategies, how to navigate challenges. Because traveling with limited mobility is not easy.
No.
But I've traveled many parts of the world, and you just have to think about it a little bit differently, and you have to be willing to be flexible and understand what you're getting yourself into, and be willing to take that leap. But once you do, man, you can do all sorts of stuff. So we might revisit that. We haven't talked about that in a while.
We've been so busy with
been so busy,
film and
but-
book, yeah.
Yeah.
Now you've got,
We have some
I'm
other things
sure,
that might work
number of people coming at you, probably the adrenaline junkies who see a great team doing some amazing things, and so they're saying Machu Picchu, they're saying Everest, they're saying, what is next for the two of you guys?
What is next? Well, we have immediate hurdles, and then we have long-term goals. Right now is get the film out, get high knees and seats. Then we have a children's book that comes out in March. So that's kind of what the immediate future. But as far as the next adventure, we were actually at Storyline, a conference that Donald Miller used to do in Chicago back in 2015. And we met Bob Goff and Jeremy Cowart, who were two individuals that had a pretty profound effect on Justin and I.
Both have been to the gathering as well.
Yeah,
Great friends
right.
of the gathering.
Yeah, good dudes, just amazing people. Bob Goff kicked us in the teeth with his way of living. Like you can always you dream big and do more. Kind of the mentality that he has instilled in us. It's infectious. Is you never arrive. If you think you've arrived, you've failed. You can always do more. You can always be more. And so Justin starts thinking, okay, so what is the next big thing? And it was pretty cool. We're on a plane ride back. He gets this idea, like, what if we did a TV show? And it was all bucket list items for the two of us, involve our wives and kids, and travel the world and just do fun stuff. But that's not good enough. That's just, it might provide entertainment value for people, but there has to be a purpose to it. So Jeremy Cowart at Storyline talked about his Purpose Hotel, which is one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard. He's creating this hotel, starting in Nashville, where everything about the hotel is geared toward changing the world while people sleep. That's kind of the tagline. And what it is every room sponsors a child. Charity Water has a well in the entryway where all coins that are dropped in there fund wells in areas that don't have clean water. All the textiles, the soaps, the shampoos, the
furniture,
everything is sourced from
artwork.
nonprofits that are getting people out of sex trade, whatever it may be. And when people stay at this hotel, he was just illustrating this in his talk. It's you get your receipt and it itemizes where all the money is gone, so you can have an idea of what kind of change you're affecting by just participating in this remarkable organization. And so as we're talking, we're thinking, gosh, let's figure out a way that we could hopefully help that. So what we want to do is have a nonprofit that's connected to each episode. So say it's Charity Water. If we're in Africa, let's highlight Charity Water and give anybody who's watching that episode the vehicle to donate to Charity Water during commercial breaks at the end of the episode. And just find some way to facilitate funds to help what Jeremy is wanting to accomplish. And it's just an idea right now. We want to call it Push for Purpose. But that is the next big
we want to have fun.
idea.
Want to have fun, but also continue the thread of, you know what? Like if we have this ability to have a platform, let's do the best we can with it.
Yeah, do something.
You know, not just two idiots doing dumb things, but which might be part of that.
But strong possibility.
But it's not the main goal. It's more of like comedic relief, probably.
No.
But
the primary objective,
yeah. So we'll see where that goes.
We've talked a little bit about the film, November 2nd, I'll Push You. November 2nd.
One night
I'll Push
only,
You.
everybody.
One night
One
only
night.
at a theater near you.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to get some information, grab their church, grab their association, an organization of
Grab
friends.
an enemy.
Grab an enemy. Grab someone you want to be a best friend. This would be a great night to do that. How would they get information or tickets?
That'd be going to our website. It's www.illpushyou.com. It's ILLPUSHYOU.com. Learn more about the film. You can get tickets through our links on there. Learn more about the book that came out back in June. And stay updated on our developments with our children's book as well.
We could also find out about this little idea that's brewing as well.
As that develops,
Yeah.
Right now it's an idea. It is just an idea,
It's an idea.
but ideas don't have life until you speak them.
Well, Justin and Patrick, you're more than a twosome. You've allowed a whole community to come around you during your weekend here. And on behalf of all of us who call the gathering family and call it home, certainly for this weekend, you're a large part of it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Been a blessing to be a part. Thank you.